What's happening? Another episode of the Squad Show. Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. How about this plot twist? The Vikings bring back Daniel Jones in 2026. Who says no?
Reggie Wilson. Joe Burrow, a Minnesota Viking? No. Well,
I'm Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings. Joe Burrow, Minnesota Viking. Yes!
Skol! It's the Viking Squad. Everything Minnesota Vikings, every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the land of 10,000 lakes. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. It's time to gear up. The Viking Squad Show starts now.
What's happening? Another episode of the Squad Show right here on the Locked On Sports Podcast Network. Now the #1 sports podcasting network. Lots to get into today. We're talking new potential GM candidates on the radar. Plus, which quarterback do the Vikings need to bring in to compete with J.J. McCarthy this offseason? Before we get into all that, quick reminder, today's episode, it's brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL. You're getting $50 in lineups instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. And, of course, after this episode, go check out that guy right there, Luke Braun over on Locked On Vikings, for all your daily content each and every day. Three-man crew today. Let's just jump right into this. It's that time of year, kind of kicking off our free agency preview. We're going to be going position by position each week, kind of targeting the guys we think the Vikings should look long and hard at. And I think no better spot to start than the quarterback position. You know, an embarrassment of riches in the building. Last year, you had Sam Darnold. Obviously, he heads to greener pastures. I think that worked out okay for him. Daniel Jones, he goes to Indy to compete for a starting job. And, essentially, you kind of go from riches to rags in just a couple weeks last offseason. Obviously, in turn, kind of the whole quarterback carousel ends up being really, call it what it was, kind of a total embarrassment, maybe a circus week to week. The GM gets fired partially because of just the way things were handled there. Now you got to go into, I think, this offseason. Everybody knows you got to bring in somebody to compete with J.J. McCarthy this year. And also, we'll get into it, but not just like a veteran leader, clipboard holder type of dude. I think you got to bring in a guy that you legitimately believe that if J.J. McCarthy, whether he gets hurt again or just isn't that good, doesn't take that next step in his development this offseason, this is a guy who can come in and kind of lead this ready-to-win now roster into the playoffs and maybe even go win a game or two. So are we in agreement on that part at least? Like, it can't be a Tyrod Taylor, right? Like a Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm just flinging out names, but like Jimmy Garoppolo type dude. There's got to be a guy who you sign that you think can come in and legitimately kind of compete for the starting job from essentially day one, Luke. Do you agree?
Yeah, Kevin O'Connell already said he wants a competitive QB room, so I don't think we're going to see a Tyrod Taylor. But I kind of also just don't really ever believe Kevin O'Connell on the podium.
That's fair.
So they could. I agree with you that I don't think they shouldn't, but I don't think they should, but they definitely could. But I think it's going to be more about what they really believe in with that name, whether it's somebody like Daniel Jones or somebody else off the free agent market, or if they go for like a big blockbuster trade that represents something a little different than what they've kind of been projecting so far about JJ McCarthy. To me, it feels like somebody that is going to be, an option for them to turn to if it's week 3 and JJ McCarthy is horrible and they're 0-3 and O'Connell's got to figure this out or get fired. They want to have that guy to turn to, but he might not be in a, let's trade first team reps, in camp. It might be McCarthy takes first team reps, the other guy takes second team reps, with the door open for that to change.
Reggie, the problem is I'm looking up, the free agents right now. It's just not super sexy. It's just not very encouraging. I mean, let's just say you're running the show and we can get into all the names. I kind of got them broken down into tier 1, tier 2. But let's just say you're running the GM room, you're calling the shots. Is there one guy you're calling first to come in and compete with JJ McCarthy? Because again, I'll be honest here, it just doesn't look like a ton of kind of scintillating options here that I'm looking at.
So I think the one name that I feel like would kind of make your hair rise up a little bit, just on the potential of it all, is Malik Willis. But I feel like you don't take this guy if he's not coming in to like be a starter for you. And I don't think he even wants to come into a situation like that where he is not gonna be the starter and you're still trying to figure it out with your young quarterback. And yeah, I think it's too early still too to just kind of like give up on JJ McCarthy. Luke brought up something that I'm like, oh, like Luke, like, do you really think like if the Vikings come out and struggle that KO could be coaching for his job? Like that is a pretty significant development
That's been my take.
considering.
Wow. Like, think about it.
Wow.
If they're 2-5 around a mid-season bye week and the season circling the drain again, and all of the sort of extra leash you got from firing Kwesi is gone because it is now clear definitive proof that you didn't solve the problems. And it's like, we know who goes in the crosshairs next. I don't think the Wilfs will sit by and let O'Connell hang out for another season without seeing some real significant success. Okay, you got rid of the GM that wasn't doing the right things, but it's still understood that this is a talented roster with a lot of expensive guys and a lot of older guys because they couldn't draft whatever, you had to do it. But it's not because the Vikings have built a team that doesn't have any talent on it and you need 3 years before you can ever expect to be good. No, I think, hey, you still doubled down on this quarterback like a million times last year. If he stinks, okay, but you got to have something else to go with to save this season. I don't think the Wilfs will have that patience. Tier 5.
Yeah, that's tough. And he doesn't have a playoff win under his belt either. I have a good friend who I talk to pretty much like every day, and he grew up in the Kansas City area, so he's a Chiefs fan. And this prosperity that he is seeing with his team the last decade or so has been nothing short of remarkable considering the Chiefs when he was growing up. And he always compares Kevin O'Connell to Marty Schottenheimer. And I'm like, oh, that's tough. That's really tough. But Marty did win playoff games. I think it's tough too when you consider Mike McDonald and Mike Vrabel are in the Super Bowl, and Vrabel is off the street almost. Like he was like an analyst last year, and takes the Patriots, builds them back up, and they go to the Super Bowl in year one. Mike McDonald, first year in the playoffs, Super Bowl with the quarterback that was here in Minnesota, no less. And I think when you look at it, 2 trips to the playoffs with Kevin O'Connell. First one just crashed and burned. Daniel Jones did it to him. Defense was terrible. Offense couldn't keep up. And this last time with Darnold in Arizona against the Rams, like it just was utter and complete domination. Darnold got sacked 75,000 times. And like KO didn't make the adjustments. And so I think what's tough about this is, and we didn't get a chance to, us three collectively talk on the pod about Kwesi leaving. I don't like how some of this has kind of been scapegoated on him because like there are still things that Kevin O'Connell should be taking accountability for when it comes to how the team and specifically how the offense is played. We know he likes to run his offense a certain way. Veteran quarterbacks probably fit the mold a little bit better because they just maybe understand his complex system a little bit more, but like he is a push the ball down the field play caller. And if JJ is not able to do that, which we saw early on last year, like to simplify things and just get them comfortable and get them into a rhythm, I think was really tough last year. That was a struggle for KO in the offense. And so when you talk about these free agent targets, I don't know. Like, do you make a trade for Mac Jones? Do you wait until the Raiders maybe post-June cut Geno Smith? I know people have been kind of talking about that. Like, what really is like the competition that he is talking about that he's going to bring into the quarterback room? Because at the end of the day, like you still have a number 10 overall pick that you traded up for. And now like you still need to kind of see what you have in him. And I understand the injury history, and that's tough, but like, I think you still kind of have to see it through. So I don't know if the guy that you bring in is a guy that you really are having compete with JJ for the starting job, or just someone enough to keep, that fire lit under JJ, like, looking over his shoulder, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but he seemed to embrace competition throughout his life.
Arif Hasan coming in cold turkey here. We're talking about quarterback free agent targets. We started the conversation saying the list right now of UDFAs, like most quarterbacks most years, remember when Kirk Cousins became a free agent, it was like, oh, this isn't very often like a legit starting quarterback becomes a free agent. But the list is just pretty weak for KOC coming out and saying, I want to add some serious competition to this quarterback room. Daniel Jones and Malik Willis, like that's tier one. And Jones probably he ain't hitting the market, odds on.
Come back.
That's tier one. That's where we're at. Tier two, like I'm looking at like Marcus Mariota, Mitch Trubisky, Jameis Winston. Like it's so weak. So to Reggie's point, like, what are we doing, dude? Are we waiting for Geno Smith to get cut? Are we trading for Mac Jones? Are we trading for the Reclamation Project, Anthony Richardson? Like, what are we doing? If you're the GM and you're calling the shots, who are you bringing in? Who's your first call to come in and compete with JJ McCarthy this year?
There's a likely cut you're forgetting. Big Kirko
Chains.
Yeah, we got to bring. We got to think about Chains, right?
Oh boy.
It's tough. I mean, so like people have been talking about like trading for Mac Jones. That feels like Mac Jones is the quality of quarterback that I think kind of fits this. It's just there's like one more year left on his contract. Like that's the one thing, right? But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people are curious about like Malik Willis. I think that the price tag he'll manage to command in free agency. Well, I mean, whatever the answer to that is going to be funny, but it's also not going to be something I think the Vikings can, effectively, compete with, right? Like we know, obviously, that the Vikings have the ability to manipulate the cap and create all this additional cap space and stuff like that. And they can get up to, from minus 50 to plus 30 or something like that. I don't know. Like that doesn't feel like it'll be enough, even though first year cap hits for, free agents are not that big. You're going to be pushing stuff in the 27 and 28 where the Vikings have maybe a little less freedom. So I don't know that Malik Willis would be somebody that they'd be able to go after. And that's kind of like, you really want to
you don't want to get in a bidding war with anybody for him, right? At that point, he's kind of stock up, the hot name right now. But one of these like 7 or 8 or 9 names we've just kind of flung out here, one of these guys is probably going to be a Viking. Like they got to bring in somebody. Give me a guy.
Not going to be Jake Browning.
Who's Luke? I know you mentioned you were kind of talking yourself into Mitch Trubisky like 3-4 weeks ago. I mean, you still on that kind of train, or maybe
I think he's
a
great backup. I think he represents a different direction where you are giving JJ McCarthy like one more true year. You just need a more serious backup than Sam Howell was. That kind of represents that to me. But, a lot of these situations feel like next year situations, like with somebody like Tua or Kyler Murray. Their contracts get a lot more malleable next year. Somebody like Mac Jones only has 1 year left on his deal. If he doesn't get traded, if he serves as a backup in San Francisco again, he's just a straight up free agent next year. And then you got a more interesting idea. It's a better draft class for quarterbacks next year.
Draft class next year.
It feels like the best long-term way. If you are done with JJ McCarthy, it still feels like just limping through another one with him. Hey, give it a shot, even if it's an outside shot. Limp through another year with him, and then next year you're going to have a load of options. Still feels better, but if you want to try to facilitate some of these trades, I've had a lot of Locked On hosts on my show recently talking about their quarterback situations. I had Alex Clancy of Locked On Cardinals tell me, yeah, they're looking for a way to get rid of Kyler Murray right now, and they might eat a lot of that money. That contract might not be as bad as it looks because Arizona's going to take a whole bunch of it on they might straight up cut him. And then he'll be an interesting. I don't think he fits great with Kevin O'Connell and what he wants to do, but he's a starter. It's better than trying to talk yourself into Mitch Trubisky.
Mhm.
I just had Peter Bukowski on to talk about Malik Willis and how well he fits what Kevin O'Connell wants to do. And hey, is he making all this money off of 3 games? That's all he played in Green Bay. It was 3 games. Is that really going to be enough to make him, bajillions of dollars? Or is the kind of Sam Darnold renaissance enough to inspire other teams not to be worried about small samples so much that they're going to do this on 3 games? I don't know.
Someone in the chat just mentioned Spencer Rattler as a trade target. I actually don't hate that.
Oh God, I do. I just don't think that's an NFL player.
He's not okay in the same way that Kyler Murray is not a very good fit for what Kevin O'Connell does. Spencer Rattler is not a very good fit for what Kevin O'Connell does. And this is not. I don't think Kevin O'Connell is a heightist. I don't think that he's got something against.
No, it's not about that. It's just the way that you want to play with Kyler Murray just isn't the kind of like offense that you want. But
he did not look terrible before Tyler Shuck took over. Now, Tyler Shuck took over for a reason, right? Like I'm not going to.
Yeah. I don't.
But like the issue is, right, that a lot of the kind of most intriguing quarterbacks that you could potentially, try to Daniel Jones, right? Try to develop, try to fix. That's not where you want to be, right? Like you don't have the luxury now to see if you can fix Anthony Richardson, right? Like that's like you're just not in a spot where you're like, Will Levis really like he obviously didn't do very much, but he's got the tools, so we'll be able to. You don't have that. You got to have a guy that you can bring in that has the ability to kind of compete early on. So you mentioned Kyler Murray's a potential trade target. Obviously, pie in the sky, right? Joe Burrow, right? If he's like,
we should talk about the Joe Burrow.
Yeah, we'll get
he
get
wants
there.
Out.
Okay, yeah.
We'll get their segment too. Yeah, go ahead.
So I didn't see the segment list. That's my bad. But there's also like you could see if you wanted to continue the concussion party and trade for Tua, right? Like you clearly the Vikings.
I wonder how much
that much with
Miami eats that contract. Luke, you brought up a great point about Kyler. Both those teams, it feels like if they want to move on from those starting quarterbacks, they're going to have to eat a lot of that.
And there's a reason they want to be done with these quarterbacks. I'm not saying these are good options.
Yeah, Tua feels like such a perfect fit, and that scares me deeply because I don't think he's good.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I agree. I don't want the Vikings.
What do we think about like Jimmy Garoppolo or Gardner Minshew?
Jimmy seems too good as a fit. That
really?
Feels well, not like as a player, as a fit,
as a scheme fit. It's not long term, and I feel like part of what I want in this is a guy that can be the long term guy, even if it's an outside shot to be the long term guy, like Malik Willis,
someone younger,
someone that's
I like
got
Minshew. He tore his ACL, I think. Did he not?
No, they found out it wasn't as serious as they thought. It was just a bone bruise.
Don't worry about it.
Somebody that has the vibes of Sam Darnold in 2024 when they signed him there, where it's like, hey, there's I guess a chance that this guy could do it.
That's Will Levis.
No.
Oh God, no. Kevin O'Connell specifically hates Will Levis.
No, that's true. I'm just saying you were talking about like the vibe, like that does kind of match that vibe where it's like, I think this guy's a disaster and he was kind of a bust. It's like, but he has the tools, right?
Well, how about Anthony Richardson?
I think that's
does anybody
Malik Willis.
does that do anything for anybody?
Bust, but maybe.
Anthony Richardson.
With him,
Anthony Richardson's absolutely an option. That's been rumored a little bit too.
I think he'd be an option if McCarthy was better. Like you can't mess around with this one.
Yeah, if KO is coaching for his job, like I just don't think that he has the
leash,
the ability to put him in the QB hospital or whatever you call it, QB rehab. It's you need somebody who can come in there and like actually compete, and if JJ goes down again, like you can throw him in there and have confidence that you can win several football games. I just don't think that Anthony is there. I feel like he needs like a year in KO system before you give him free reign to go work. And so I don't know. What do you guys think about Geno though? If he's like a post June 1 cut,
super good on that. I think he's turbo washed.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say bring him in. I don't think he's going to cost that much given what happened with the Raiders. I also don't blame him that much for what happened with the Raiders. I do think there is a pretty decent chance that he's washed, right? But I mean, like, what options are we talking about?
That's what I'm
Like,
saying, dude.
Yeah.
What there's
he
not
goes
like
in the Jimmy
this
Garoppolo
great
category to
option out
me.
here.
Like, old guy, you're not going to get a lot out of him. You're not going to get what you could have got out of him 5 years ago. Would be an interesting backup / mentor type for your young quarterback, but wouldn't represent serious enough competition. But going to I want to talk about the Anthony Richardson idea. One, got to make sure that guy can see. That's a real concern that I have.
No, you got to check
Look
it
at the
out.
bone. Yeah,
because that injury can lead to like permanent eyesight damage a lot, and I'm not sure what the deal is there. But assuming that checks out,
Wait, no, hold on. Would that make him a worse quarterback though?
yes. don't tell me a guy can't get worse. But O'Connell has total power. Nobody's going to tell him no, and he loves that guy. So, Reggie, I totally see your point. I think it's a good one. I don't know if Kevin O'Connell's going to care.
Really? Okay, I got one more. And I feel like I know where Luke is going to go with this. What if he becomes available? Zach Wilson.
I mean, if we wanted to talk about the Sam Darnold trajectory, the Sam
That
Darnold,
is-
I think,
Sam
yeah,
Darnold
when Luke brought that up,
that is a copy and paste there. Too.
Committing a bit too much to the bit, maybe.
Right. Well, I mean, the Wilfs really, apparently, according to Rossini, wanted to commit to the bit and get Aaron Rodgers, right? That would have like completed.
What about Aaron Rodgers?
No. Let's talk first about
if he comes back, he's a Steeler. I think he liked that Oregon. And I guess he and McCarthy buried the hatchet. I don't know.
That's what they say. I don't know. I feel like you got to say that.
But if
right?
if he said, I'll go to Minnesota for my last year, I'll do it. I mean, again, what are our options here? Are you okay with that? Or are you absolutely no, don't want anything?
Well, spiritually, it's very painful. I feel like,
yeah,
as a quarterback option, the problem is that I do get it, which is why I kind of threw it away right away because I don't want to think about it too much. There is like a logic to it that is a little bit better than like we got to trade for Mac Jones, right? Like, like I get it. I do want to talk just a little bit more about the Zach Wilson thing, but I do think that the Aaron Rodgers option is strangely on paper like kind of appealing, right? But the Zach Wilson thing I think is interesting. The reason I liked the Sam Darnold signing when the Vikings signed him, which obviously I did not expect, Sam Darnold to be as good as he was because he had at least shown flashes, right? Like I liked what the last 6 games in Carolina looked for him. I like what kind of like the 50 or so dropbacks, 100 or so dropbacks he took in San Francisco. I thought there was something there, and he began working within a system. He began throwing against pressure. There was something. Now, obviously, he didn't look nearly as good as what he turned out to be in Minnesota, and then obviously in Seattle, right? With Zach Wilson, I don't see any of that, right? And there was a lot of like Sam Darnold coming out. One of the things was like, and this guy's really smart. He just has to, undo the turnovers. He has to dial that down, which like when I heard that as a scouting report when he was first coming out, I was like, that feels like a lot. And it was, but it could work, right? But like he understands kind of what the offense will demand of him. And I've never gotten that impression from Zach Wilson, who is a very toolsy quarterback, but also like does tend to panic a lot. And if there's one thing KOC loves in quarterbacks, it's that they'll stick in the pocket and just take a huge hit if it'll get you 20 yards. Right. Like that's the thing that like, is the through line for all of these, like Joshua Dobbs, Nick Mullins, Kirk Cousins, which is not somebody KOC acquired, but something he loved about Kirk Cousins. JJ McCarthy will do that. He won't get the 20 yards, but he will attempt to, right? Carson Wentz, much to his chagrin, would do that, right? And it's not like a Zach Wilson quality, right? So that's the one thing. Aaron Rodgers also won't do that, but like you like it's worth it most of the time that he won't do that, I guess. So
it definitely feels like the kind of offense Kevin O'Connell doesn't want to be. Like he wanted to be a developing double move guy.
Yeah.
Right now, what the Steelers did with Aaron Rodgers, assuming that's what you have to do to make an Aaron Rodgers offense work because he's old and this is what his body can do now, you have to be like a quick strike, like West Coast, spread him out like that. It doesn't feel again like what he wants to do.
Yeah.
However, Kevin O'Connell was tempted to sign his close personal friend Aaron Rodgers. And now if Kwesi was the guy stopping him from doing that, if the Rossini reporting, which is the only journalist who's on this at all, is to be believed, then the barrier is out of the way, and maybe he will go hire his close personal friend Aaron Rodgers.
It is funny that we're like, hey, the Vikings offense doesn't have any slants in it. They got to throw it. And they go from that to like, and I think the numbers bore that out. They had the fewest slant routes like run in the league or something along those lines.
Yeah.
To getting Aaron Rodgers, the guy who effing loves the slant, who loves slant flat, who loves, all like these short 3, 5, 7 yard gains, like that. That would be a hilarious, like they have to end up there. And now all the receivers have to learn a secret language that he won't teach them to, which is nice.
All right, don't go anywhere. We got some breaking news to touch on. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on all the action before the season officially comes to a close. Super Bowl 60, it's here. FanDuel's making sure you're right in the middle of it with the special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're on the favorite Seahawks sitting at -4.5 or riding with the underdog Patriots or building one last same game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. The perfect way to cap off the season, make the Super Bowl even more exciting from the opening kickoff to the final whistle. Right now, if you're a new customer, bet just $5. You're getting $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. It's the last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Go visit FanDuel.com today to get started. All right, let's just keep this quarterback conversation rolling and bring up what seems to be kind of everybody's, I don't know, kind of fun, off-the-wall Disneyland Mickey Mouse pipe dream, which is somehow, some way pulling Joe Burrow from Cincinnati and getting him here to Minnesota. Let's just forget about the trade compensation stuff just for a minute, which we know would have to be a king's ransom and probably then some. But just solely from a salary cap kind of topic of conversation today, $48 million cap hit this year, $52 million cap hit in 2027. Is this even possible, Luke? Sure, cap's a myth. I get all that. But as our capologist here, where do you even start, I guess, discussing like the possibility of adding, a premier top tier quarterback on a massive contract like this? Like, what's the first step or two we got to consider?
Yeah. So on March 20th, which is after a day where you could facilitate this, he has a $15 million option bonus due. Otherwise, he would come with a $25 million cap hit immediately, and then the option bonus would kick in later, and that's what makes up the cap hit. 7.7 mil of that stays with the Bengals. So it would be a $40 million cap hit right off the bat. And that March 20th deadline would be the deadline you have to like figure out how to restructure and move the money around and find a way to make that deal happen. I think we've all at this point done some version of the cap exercise of look how much money we can all make. The cap do go up. It did have it did go up more than like the website's projected. So if you saw that scary minus $49 million number, that number is a little less scary than you thought, because the actual salary cap was higher than the projection. So everybody has more space than the cap websites thought, which I feel like happens every year. It's just always going up at an unfathomable rate that even the cap experts are like, whoa. So I think that like calendar wise, that's how you would have to make it happen. You have to do some kind of restructure. His contract already has 3 void years on the end of it. So restructuring any number of that salary is totally doable. And then you figure it out from there. But because it is kind of split into the money you would gain when you trade for him and the money that would kick in like a week later, you have a little bit of a window to move things around cap wise.
Reggie, this still pique your interest here? Pulling a summer blockbuster move for Joe Burrow. Just considering it again, I mean, I don't know. The conversation's got to start with 3 first and then a couple core players. Jonathan Grenard. I'm just flinging guys out here, but does this pique your interest knowing the quarterback kind of situation they're already headed into this offseason in 2026?
All right. So I preface this. I preface this by saying that I love Joe Burrow. Okay. Love the guy. He stands for so many wonderful things just as a human. And I think he is an incredible football player. Full stop. I was in Cincinnati when he was drafted to the Bengals, and I covered him for, what was that, half a season before his knee got totally just crushed in Washington. And I started in Minnesota. I remember being on my couch when the Vikings and the Bengals played in Cincinnati, went to overtime. That was not a fumble from Dalvin Cook. It was not a fumble. Okay.
True.
Just putting that out there. But
true.
It was like my new team against my old team. I covered the Bengals for like 4 years. And like he was like the savior in Cincinnati. They were so excited to get him. And I just remember how big of a bummer it was when he tore his knee up. And then he comes back the second year and takes the Bengals to the Super Bowl. I came here to Minnesota last year of Mike Zimmer. They don't make the playoffs. It was a hot mess. And now, since then, Joe Burrow, I just want to do this. He's 29. He'll be 30 when the season starts. He has already had like some catastrophic injuries in his career. And I think if fans in Vikings land are already tired of this JJ McCarthy injury stuff, which is a very small amount compared to what Joe has done. He's got the knee injury. He's got the calf injury that he had. That was, everybody was scared, a couple years ago that it was, more serious than that. The wrist injury that maybe we thought like he wouldn't be the same again. Like that's not an injury that quarterbacks usually, go through, but he was able to bounce back and have an incredible year last year. Even though the Bengals were terrible, he lit it up. 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, like amazing. And then he's playing out of his mind this year. Turf toe, misses the biggest part of the season, goes 5-3 as a starter. You're talking about a guy who only has played, in the years that he's been in the league, has only played 3 full seasons. It's been partial seasons the other seasons that he's been in the NFL. Like I said, I love Joe Burrow. I think he's amazing. I think he's a great quarterback, and he's grown as the years have gone as well as a quarterback in the league. But I just don't know that you risk. I think it's a big swing, and I just think that considering the injuries that he has had, I just think that it's really tough to put all of that together in a package, whatever it costs, whatever it's going to take, probably packaging JJ McCarthy with that as well, to but to trade for a guy that injury history just makes me a little nervous, I think. But I love the player.
Okay, unlike Reggie, I believe in the power of friendship. Full send.
This does feel like another situation that is a next year deal. I had James Rapine on my show of Locked On Bengals to talk about it, and he was like, "This is not real."
Love James,
but it could be real next year, and that contract is a lot more tradable next year. It would be like pretty painful for the Bengals to trade, even like with a post June after that option kicks in or something like that, which is, I think, why it's structured in option bonuses that way. It's also a cash flow thing, which helps the owner. But next year it gets a lot more movable. Another year for maybe the Bengals defense to let Joe Burrow down, maybe a year for him to show he can stay healthy a little bit. And for those tensions that don't look like they got resolved at all last year, we'll see what happens this offseason, and if those defensive tensions get resolved again, or if he, now if the O-line falters and he gets sacked a million times, is he going to want out even more? It feels like next year is the year where a lot of this QB motion happens, and maybe some of this tension gets resolved. Also, no guaranteed money left on Joe Burrow's contract after this season.
Interesting.
That's how the Bengals do things, but they honor those contracts. I remember when they had AJ Green and Andy Dalton. Yeah, they just kept
Yeah.
paying them through the life of their deals, even though they didn't have any guaranteed money left. They honored those because the Bengals are notoriously cheap.
Right,
And-
yeah,
and,
and they've got
like,
cash flow
players-
issues, and guaranteed money, requires a level of cash in escrow that they may not have.
Right, which is why the option bonuses are the way they are, because now that money doesn't need to be in escrow, even though it's like guaranteed. He's getting the money, but you don't need to set it aside 3 years ahead of time. But with no guaranteed money on it, like Burrow may want, like that might make the contract an issue, and then that will spark a negotiation to, reconfigure how that contract is, turn something into a signing bonus, turn something more into guaranteed money, try to add 2 more years to the end of the deal because you're getting to the end of it anyways, or something like that. And then if that goes sour because the vibes are bad, and the vibes are pretty bad in Cincinnati, if they stay bad, that's when you start. He could start saying, "Hey, well, I know those Vikings are looking for a quarterback if you really want to push me," and that's where things can start to spiral.
I'm so distraught right now. I cannot find this sounder button for the life of me. So we're just gonna have to roll with something like this. Let's go.
Sorry,
That's the sound.
Did we get hit by a meteor? What's
that? I can't hear you.
A second cap guru has struck the Minnesota Vikings.
that is the news.
That is the news.
The Matt Thomas, Luke Braun, breaking news.
Luke's been looking for that sound effect since the beginning of the show. Chat is like, why are they playing the sound? It's because Luke can't find it.
Did I miss the sound?
Meech was
Sam would never.
Meech was convinced that this was a pre-recorded show, which would be a great bit for me to show up 10 minutes late in a pre-recorded show because we weren't playing the sound.
Yeah, Matt Thomas, he was like the Brzezinski of the Seahawks for like 11 years, and he did that job and was like a front office guy for other teams too. He's been in the league forever. He joins the Vikings to help kind of be take over some of the duties that Briz has to leave behind, being the interim GM. That's not too much to say about it, but it feels like a pretty big name to add to the front office. And if Brzezinski is going to interview for the full GM job, then you have the structure in place already, and you kind of already have his replacement.
So are we going to, not that the Matt Thomas signing actually signals anything, I'm just kind of building off of the previous, because I don't know enough about Matt Thomas or anything to genuinely comment on it. But, are we just saying, this season's whatever? Next season, though, quarterback options aplenty. You got the draft, you got free agency, you got some trades. Is that...
It's like...
Dude, our
let's take one JJ McCarthy
roster and this quarterback. We got off the rails with this timing last year, didn't we?
It's like... I think let's do one mulligan on the JJ McCarthy thing. He got hurt. He had a kid at the wrong time or whatever.
You still do need a vet backup though. Great. We're gonna.
So maybe that is a Mitch Trubisky. That's kind of the other interpretation of all the Kevin O'Connell comments, that they're gonna get somebody, but it's not gonna be as serious as everyone wants.
Dude, my life is gonna be crazy if you because JJ McCarthy's problem until week 13 was that he couldn't throw left, right? And then you bring in Mitch Trubisky, the actual can't throw left guy. That my tweets about it got in the news. I shouldn't say in the news. I am the news, but still.
Arif reaping versus Arif sowing.
Yeah, no, it's just I started a bit about how he couldn't throw left, and it just it went mega viral. It got on Fox Sports 1, and then Mitch Trubisky had to address it in a press conference, right? And now him coming to Minnesota, it's like the Carson Wentz bit kind of, came back to bite me. Now we got this. I don't know, man. We can't. These bits don't deserve to have the life they have.
All right, now it needs to happen. Needs to happen.
Yeah, you get tagged every time there's a next gen stats.
Every time any quarterback
sort of leans left
in a single game doesn't throw a little bit to the left. It's hey, have you seen this passing chart, Arif? And it's no, but thank you.
On your tomb, here lies Arif Hasan. ...
Can't throw
whether it's him or somebody else. This year would represent one more shot, right? All right, we're going to take a mulligan. Some things went weird. There were injuries. The O-line was all beat up. Let's see if we can't stay a little healthier. Let's see if we get a little luckier and see if JJ McCarthy has anything. And then if he's, the same thing again next year, you are so confident in being able to move on, and you have so many more options, and you're not going to be worried about the scenario where you just let Sam Darnold out the building and he goes to a Super Bowl, and then you quit on a young quarterback when he was 23 years old, and then 3 years later he's the next Sam Darnold and he figured it out, and he now, all the former Vikings are out there dominating the NFC. Like, you don't want that scenario. So give it one more year, and then if it's very bad, you're way more confident that that's not going to happen to you, and you have more options. I feel like that's the path of least resistance. It's going to go
nuts when JJ McCarthy is in the Super Bowl in 2031 for like the New York Jets.
For the Raiders.
Yeah. For some rando franchise, and he's playing
Gruden,
against
coaching the Raiders again.
Old man hoops Sam Darnold.
Let's just get ahead of the curve then. If we're going to wait a year, let's get ahead of the curve and just trade up to number 1 and go take Mendoza. Let's just get it over with right now.
The Vikings did try preemptively trading in one draft. I don't see why it wouldn't be an issue if they tried in another. Right?
Too bad they won all those games at the end. Instead of picking 18, you could be picking, 8.
And still not trade. The Raiders aren't trading away the number 1 pick.
Even when JJ McCarthy wins, he loses.
Quick break coming up. Our top GM targets on the radar. That's all coming up right after this. This episode also brought to us by Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important it is when you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for. Trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed, 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show, you're getting $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now. Support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. All right, as we sit here and talk about, quarterback free agents, Joe Burrow, Vikings salary cap, perfect little transition, good little segue to get into a quick discussion about the GM candidates they could be or should be looking at. We talked about George Paton on Monday's episode, maybe the possibility of bringing him back to Minnesota from Denver. Obviously, Rob Brzezinski's name somewhere on the list as well. To be totally honest, after our conversation Monday, I'm kind of out on George Paton. I don't think he's even going to be an option anyways. I don't know why in the world Denver would let him leave after everything they built the past 2-3 years. But Rob Brzezinski, maybe that seems a little bit more plausible and realistic on paper. Still don't think the odds are super high on him though either. Luke, I know you just recorded a new episode on potential GM targets. I haven't listened to it yet.
On a bunch of these.
Yeah, I guess just where are you at with those top 2 names, first of all? Are they real options in your mind? And if not, do you got one guy you can give us that just kind of makes some sense from what we know about the Wilson, this organization?
So I don't think George Paton is a real option at all. At most, the rumors are just like a leverage thing because he's in a contract negotiation. It's exactly Brian Flores interviewing with the Commanders. And I would imagine that the Vikings would be happy to help because they're all still good buds with George Paton. Yeah, sure, we'll say we're interviewing you, bud. I don't think it's real at all. I actually asked Cody Roark of Locked On Broncos. I'm going to talk to him right after this show for tomorrow's Locked On Vikings about it. But he was like, it's a hard no. So that's probably pie in the sky. Brzezinski, he'll interview for the job. He'll have every chance in the world to do the interim to get the job thing. It happens in the head coach ranks all the time. He'll get a little audition here. If that audition goes well, he'll have a really great bargaining chip in his corner in the interview, but he'll have to beat off other candidates.
Don't you think, I'm just thinking about Brzezinski, don't you think if they wanted him, they just would have gave him the job? You've worked with him for 20 plus years now. I feel like you know exactly what you're getting, the pros and cons. I feel like if they wanted Brzezinski as the guy, they just would have done it.
Well, yeah, if that was just what they were going to do, but they want to consider lots of other options. There are a lot of people out there. They're going to interview many candidates. Brzezinski will be one of them.
I know Ian Cunningham was kind of a popular name out there from Chicago, working under Ryan Poles. He was hired at Atlanta with Matt Ryan, so he's off the table. I honestly only know of two names, 2 guys I can speak to with any type of like validity as far as like just a guy that I know of, and that's Alec Halby, assistant GM in Philly, who I've heard his name the past couple of years, basically just the right hand man to Howie Roseman. I mean, that's all I need to know there. Eric Dodds is the other one, assistant GM.
Dodds
for the Colts.
has been like a hot name for a couple of
years and
Has
years
he?
and years.
Okay, yeah, super highly regarded guy. No, just kind of
he was a hot name the last time the Vikings were interviewing for GM.
Actually, yeah.
His bread and butter, correct me if I'm wrong, is more about like his scouting eye, being able to evaluate talent, the draft. That definitely intrigues me quite a bit. Obviously, devil's advocate is like, well, are you the guy that drafted Anthony Richardson top 5? But again,
yeah, honestly, probably
obviously,
not.
Probably not. Right? There's a lot.
That was probably more Chris Ballard. His deal was, so he was in the scouting world of Seattle when they were like nailing all the Legion of Boom drafts. And then he left Seattle in 2018 and Seattle started drafting horribly. And then he went to Indianapolis where they immediately fixed their O-line in the Chris Ballard world through the draft with him in a scouting role. And so he looked like he was just like the guru of it. The second he left Seattle and joined Indianapolis, a bad drafting team got good and a good drafting team got bad. That hasn't really held over the last like 3 years. It's been a little different. Seattle's had some absolutely insane drafts now. They've pulled it together. They had the Colts have had a couple of missteps and stuff, so it hasn't quite held. And I would say that the Colts are in a weird spot with their staff because I have no idea what Carly Ursay-Gordon's going to do. Chris Ballard is in a weird spot with like it could be a hot seat. Some of that other stuff is like there's like a weird energy in Indianapolis that doesn't make anybody from that front office staff look like too hot a candidate.
It's funny because so much changes in the NFL, year to year, 2-3 years. Chris Ballard was one of like the hottest name GMs, like one of the top 5 GMs, just on fire. And now all of a sudden, 2-3 years later, you miss on a top 5 quarterback pick, and a couple other draft picks as well. And all of a sudden he feels like, he definitely could be on the hot seat as well. One more name I've heard floated around, Lions assistant GM Ray Agnew. A lot of people respect, I guess, his body of work the last 4 or 5 years, just being a part of, what Detroit has done to build that roster back up, I guess, the last 4 or 5 years. Anybody know anything? Luke, I don't know if you touched on him in your episode or not. Don't want to put you on the hot seat if not. But Ray Agnew, assistant GM for the Lions. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so he was the pro personnel guy for the Rams when Brad Holmes was this director of college scouting for the Rams. Brad Holmes gets the Lions job. Ray Agnew goes with him and has kind of been his right-hand man ever since. So the argument would be, look at what the Lions did. Let's do that. And you'd bring him.
That's a tough one to replicate.
Yes. And also I would argue that the draft has driven the Lions a little bit more than the pro scouting side has. Which is Brad Holmes's background. So it's more difficult to credit Ray Agnew, but this is all very speculative. Who was saying what in what room, we're never really going to know. The other kind of hurdle here is you would be giving 2 third-round compensatory picks to a division rival, which probably isn't like a deal breaker at all, but something
not a deal breaker, but something you definitely keep in the back.
Right, like if you land the right guy, like who cares, right? But at the same, like I get where you're going with that. So my concern is that a lot of the candidates that people might want to bandy around are interesting in part because they are just the opposite of Kwesi, and I don't want to do kind of this rubber band thing just to do it, right? And I understand. There's already been reporting that they definitely want a guy who, and like obviously I don't mind if they hire a guy who works hard, if that's what their version of rubber banding is. But like the thing with somebody like an Ed Dodds who specifically has a reputation for individually being a pretty good scout, right? Like is that's not actually the job.
Right.
Like the general manager needs to be very good at managing, right? Across multiple departments, across multiple information feeds. In theory, the thing that made Kwesi so appealing, right? But like all of these other problems with Adolfo Mensa, just it didn't, kind of pan out. But I do think you need someone who is comfortable speaking a couple of different languages. And there are people around the league. Anybody who's worked in the Eagles front office for a period of time has some degree of comfort talking with like different departments and speaking multiple kinds of languages. There's also I think the Steelers guy, the assistant general manager, Andy Weidel, Whitell.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some, and I don't know how good any of these candidates are, but he's got some background both in terms of the ability to talk with the analytics department, with the scouting department, or whatever. And the idea is that you're pulling together all of this other stuff and then leading with it, bringing in information, translating the information into something actionable, and then acting, right? I don't actually need you to be that good of a scout because that's not going to be your primary job. You are not going to be watching 250 players. You will not be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't trust you to do that. So whether or not you individually can be a good scout is less important than your ability to kind of lead multiple types of teams with multiple types of personalities, with multiple needs and wants and stuff like that, right? And so like somebody, and I haven't seen his name mentioned, and I don't think he's been in the league long enough to be a serious candidate, but just to speak to a background, somebody like Scott Kuhn, former Viking scout and leader of the analytics department in Minnesota before he moved over to New Orleans, right? And I think he spent 2-3 years in New Orleans now. Again, I have no idea if he specifically is a good candidate, but rather he is conversant in multiple types of departments and multiple types of language and understands where scouts are coming from, might understand where coaches are coming from, might have a good understanding of where the pro personnel department is coming from, has a good understanding of where the data analysis stuff is coming from. And it's not that I want somebody who emphasizes analytics necessarily, right? But I want somebody who understands the process-oriented thinking that comes with that. And I want somebody that understands kind of the short-term needs that coaches have. And I want somebody that understands how to connect coaches with scouts so the scouts know what to look for from their coaches. Like that's what's important. So some of the stuff that people are talking about with these general, I'm not saying these guys are bad general managers. I'm saying we're focusing sometimes on the wrong thing. So you were a good scout when you were a scout. I don't.
Yeah, that's only part of it.
Yeah,
that's a small piece of the puzzle. Yeah.
So there are two candidates in everybody's getting their ideas. I got my ideas from the Athletic article that Alec Lewis and Diana Rossini put out. That was like 12 candidates, and there were a couple from the Seahawks there. Trent Kirshner is really interesting for exactly those reasons. If you want a rubber band with Kwesi, I think there's two arguments. You either get a guy that's known for being good at the draft because Kwesi was bad at the draft, or you get a guy with a lot of experience because Kwesi didn't have a lot of experience. Trent Kirshner would be the latter. He's all about like the experience, because he's been in the NFL for like 25 years. He actually grew up in Minnesota. There's that. He had an internship with the Twins. It's a cute story. But the deal with him is that he has been in that high-ranking role with Pete Carroll having personnel control. And the Vikings have a coach right now, two coaches with personnel control that they might be reticent to give up to a new GM that comes in and like says, no, we're doing all this, we're doing all that. That may cause some friction. And I think these coaches apparently have had personnel control for a couple of years. So it's not just that it's the interim setup. It's only that that's the official way. So I feel like somebody like Kirshner has been in a structure where the coach has personnel control, and that was harmonious and it worked, and it found a way to make that successful in Seattle over the last couple of decades. More than not, they've got a Super Bowl. They're in another one. And like, because he has experience working with that and just a lot of experience in general, he may fit, but it depends on what kind of structure the Wilfs are trying to do. Are they going to keep the coach with personnel control? If not, that's going to be an interesting conversation with a head coach that hasn't won a playoff game in 4 years. But if they are, then that could be the candidate.
Anybody miss Rick Spielman yet after this experience? Anybody want him back?
Hashtag vindicated.
Hashtag vindicated.
Vindication.
Look, we got more starts from Spielman draft picks than we did Kwesi draft picks, right? Like that's
this season.
One last final name I just want to throw out before we move on. Final segment. Ryan Cowden, VP of Personnel for New England. Apparently, this is the guy that like Mike Vrabel pounded the table for in Tennessee. And didn't get his wish, and then Vrabel got fired and whatnot. He ends up one of his first hires when he got over to New England. So another name just seems like a guy with
maybe if he was on staff, the Vikings would have had the relationships to trade up to number 3, right?
One final segment left. Favorite Super Bowl prop picks. That's all coming up right after this. Today's episode also brought to us by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and we start to think there's got to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications, because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Personally, I love how simple Quo makes everything. Like, your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number. Details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 business owners, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first month when you go to quo.com/lockedonnfl. That's QUO.com/lockedonnfl. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, you know him. I love him. Super Bowl prop bets. Arif, I feel like you're the guy that I kind of lean on with Super Bowl prop bets. You're the guy that, like, I'm like, hey, dude, did you lay anything down? And you got like 16 different Super Bowl prop bets going on. Well, yeah, in the first quarter, I need this to happen. But if this happens in the first quarter, then in the second half, is there anything that you're kind of drawn to more than others? Whether it's like one of the fun prop bets, I don't know, Gatorade bath color, streaker on the field, national anthem time length. Is there one that you're usually drawn to more than others each year before we start to kind of dive into our favorite player props?
Yeah, the one that I've been looking into that's kind of silly, or maybe not silly, but rather outside of game action, I guess is the best way to put it, is that Bad Bunny shouts out Puerto Rico. I think that was like at -300. That feels like, obviously you're not getting a ton of return on investment on that, but I also think that that's essentially close to inevitable. I don't want to say anything is inevitable. I don't want to re-Davis myself on gambling, but that one feels like pretty likely if you can find that, especially on like FanDuel, where it'd be fun to find a couple of specials like that. That would be probably where I would go. But in terms of just like during the game, right? I think one of the things that appeals to me is the sacks. I think 5.5 sacks is the game total over under, and it's at -113 over 5.5. It's actually over under a -113. So on either side, and I want to take the over on that because first of all, there's a really strong matchup for Seattle defensively against that offensive line. Not a great offensive line. Seattle's defensive line has done a really, really good job. But also, just generally speaking, the increase in blitz rate from the Patriots defense since like week 13. So they were at like a 22%, a little bit below league average in terms of blitz rate. Well, they increased their blitz rate from week 13 going forward, and this went into the playoffs 40%, 50%. I think against the Broncos is at 60%. They're sending extra pass rushers a ton at a Flores type rate. And while Sam Darnold has been a lot better against the blitz, right, it has resulted in a couple of sacks, right? And I think we're going to see, I think Sam Darnold's sack rate is relatively low this year. I think we're going to see, when we see it against the blitz, we're going to see a couple more of those happen, especially because the Patriots will do probably a better job against some of these explosives than a lot of the teams that the Seahawks have gone up against. And when you can do a pretty decent job containing explosives and you're sending in extra pass rushers, there are some opportunities for sacks. So that's kind of one that I'm kind of excited about, that I think that can
I like
be out
that.
there.
Yeah. I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Reggie, you got one prop bet that you got kind of circled right now a couple days before the big game?
I think it's interesting. This was like the first one I saw, and I was like, So we all know Marcus Jones is an electric player. And dynamic punt returner and all that, but like he's also shown himself to be very valuable on defense as well, especially in this playoffs. plus 2,200 for him to score a touchdown. I'm actually down with that. Like I can see it, whether it's
Let's
like
throw
a
that
punt
dart.
return,
Yeah.
Big boy value. Big
or
boy value.
if Sammy D just does a reverse Sammy D thing and maybe throws it to Marcus Jones, and he has the ability to weave his way in and out of that mess to make it to the end zone for a touchdown. I can see it.
Hey, I like it. Hey, if Sam Darnold gets down 2 scores early in the Super Bowl, who knows which Sam Darnold we end up seeing in that second half. So
I can't see that happening.
Wow.
Not in this Super. Have you seen Drake May over the last few games?
Yeah.
It's been tough, but in fairness to him, they were blizzards. But also notably, they are the 2 best defenses that he played. So
it's
two
true.
really
That's
good
true.
defenses
True.
in Blizzards.
Yeah, and so now
And
he's
another
gonna go-
great defense.
Yeah, he's going to go up against the best defense in the NFL. So I do think that there
but if
is
it's a
kind of-
blizzard, we've got bigger problems.
Well, yeah, there's a whole host of problems you got to solve at that point. But yeah, I do think it is notable that May's 2 worst performances this year were the last 2, up against the 2 best defenses he's played all year, and now he's going up against an even better one than those 2. That is notable. And I think I would probably take, it depends on what his over-under and passing yardage is. So I'd like to see it before I take it, but I would entertain the under on that one. But to Reggie's point, I think any kickoff or punt return touchdown is at plus 800. Now, I think Marcus Jones has 2 punt return touchdowns, if I remember correctly. Rashid Shaheed has 1 kickoff return touchdown. His average is like 30 yards. Plus 800, long odds, right? But fun odds. I like them. So Reggie put me on that, so I looked it up while he was talking. I like that. But as for, let's take a look at May's passing over under.
I'm just gonna say, me,
221.5.
maybe a cop out, but I just love these quarterback rushing props. Drake May more than
you love them.
I don't. It seems so.
Ooh, I got one for you,
37.5 yards. Yeah.
7.5 for Drake May?
Yeah, I like it.
That feels
Actually,
crazy. He was like 30 in the
drive to
other
Iowa,
games.
Luke.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I think
tempt me with a good time, Reggie.
Yeah.
Don't tempt me.
How about this one for you if you want a weird rushing prop, Luke? There's a bunch on FanDuel. There's a bunch of players to record at least 1 rushing yard. It's a lot of like receivers and stuff.
Yep.
AJ Barner plus 115 to record plus one or more rushing yard.
I like that. On that note, this new backup Seattle running back, George Halani, I think his name is, got like 7-8 touches last game with Charbonnet out. Kind of like some of his props as well, receiving yards over, 10.5, something like that. Intrigued about that one for sure.
Another very fun one that FanDuel has is ball carrier to run the longest total distance in a single play from scrimmage with next-gen stats. There is nobody at minus odds here. Jackson Smith and Jigba is the favorite at plus 350.
So just the longest.
That makes sense.
Just the most running around. So
like,
you want like
running
an around guy.
Oh.
So if you've got a guy that's
Emmanuel
like
Wilson
out,
running, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I liked,
hold on. What are Travion Henderson's odds on that one? Because I don't like Stevenson for that,
one.
Right?
Travion Henderson's odds are astronomical. It's plus 4,000. He's way down the list.
I'll throw a dollar.
Oh, they're giving it away. Oh my
God.
God.
Throw a dollar on that.
They're giving money away.
If you want to do like a nice, easy juice on a parlay, Super Bowl MVP award, position of winner, quarterback is, of course, the favorite, but it's only minus 250. It does add something to your parlay if you wanted to.
I kind of like that a lot, actually. I kind of like that a lot.
We've had a lot of receivers win recently. I will.
We have, but we have 2 quarterbacks who have had really good seasons. They've been 2 of the best quarterbacks.
And we got Jackson Smith and Jigba. Come on.
Yeah.
And Stephon
It could be. Could be Keyshawn Boutte.
If they've got Stephon Diggs walk-off touchdown, I would.
Oh man.
Yeah. That's the scenario where I'm not cheering for Darnold anymore. Is specifically
like actual walk-off, like the clock is expiring.
Yeah, like walk off, throw the helmet again.
What's
Super Bowl over.
What's the fine print on that?
At that point, I don't think I could be any happier with the Super Bowl.
How about a streaker? What's the streaker odds? Because I'll tell you what, didn't a guy 7-8 years ago just bet on himself and pay the $1,000 fine and cash out?
I still think the guy that got DK Metcalf all riled up was doing something.
You're doing something betting wise?
Some sort of psyop going on?
Oh, okay. Him
like that.
saying it worked, it ticked me off way more than it should have.
Yeah, no, I think there was like a season total he was getting close to, and he's got like, I got to get this guy suspended. For
I
the
got to
last
get
two
this
games
guy's
or
head,
something,
dude.
you know?
I got $50 on the under total yards, dude. I got to get this guy's head. We got to get out of here. Always a lot of fun. Huge shout out to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from show to show. Go check out Luke Braun over on Locked On Vikings. That's each and every day. Arif over on the Wide Left Substack. Reggie on X at Reggie Wilson TV. And again, like and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll catch you back here Monday with another episode. But until then, thanks for joining. Catch you next time.